Hello, Namaskar viewers. I'm Sanjeev Pandya welcoming you to this week's edition of the Business Talk with Ajay. This is the show in which you get to know more about different businesses. South Asians are engaged in several businesses. So each week we pick a business where South Asians are involved in it. And then we get to know inside of that business, what the business is all about, what are the operational challenges, what are the management challenges, and what you should do to have that business successful for you, and what you should really do not to have that business fail. And these are the things that we get to know from Mr. Ajay of Sai CPA Services. The show is brought to you by Sai CPA Services, a full-fledged professional accounting firm located in the state of New Jersey. They can assist you in any tax matter, personal or corporate tax matter, as well as bookkeeping, payroll services, virtual CEO, virtual CFO. That means it's a complete accounting and a tax advisory firm. You can give them a call at 908-380-6876 to schedule an appointment, or visit their website saicpaservices.com. With that note, I'd like to welcome, as you already see him on the screen, Mr. Ajay Kumar, CPA and MBA with almost 30 years of experience with Sai CPA Services. Welcome to the show, Ajay.
Thank you, Sanjeevji. Thank you for the kind introduction.
You're very welcome. Now, of course, Sai CPA Services, you have this very professional CPA firm. You have on-hand trained and experienced CPAs and everything. As you continue to deal with your clients, and the clients come from different walks of life. There are business clients, there are private clients. In that situation, e-commerce is really important. And nowadays, e-commerce is the important tool for your business to be successful. So let's find out more on e-commerce in this week's episode.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure. So e-commerce business has its own characteristic. It's very different. Even if you are selling the same thing, e-commerce wise, or through an internet website or social media site, it's not the same as if you were selling a brick and mortar store. So there are a lot of rules that you have to be careful about. Let's say, for example, when you have a brick and mortar store and you are trying to sell some widget, the customers that are coming to you, they're all local customers. When you have an e-commerce store, the customers may not be as local for you. So going back to the same example, the sales tax exposure is limited to the state where you have this business in, if you have a brick and mortar store. But when you have an e-commerce store, you can expect the order coming from any state now. Then how do you collect the sales tax? Which sales tax do you collect? And how do you pay the sales tax? And how many states do you have to pay the sales tax depending on the order? So when it comes to the e-commerce, as easy as it sounds, it has its own nuisance, it has its own caveats that you have to be careful about. Say, starting an e-commerce business is much faster, much easier. You have the goods, you don't have to sign the lease, you don't have to have a storefront. You can create a website and you can start selling from tomorrow. But then at the same time, you have to be concerned about the shipping. What you're selling for $1, now you have to charge $5 because $4 is shipping, or you have to let the customer know it's $1 plus shipping. So there are a lot of conditions, a lot of characteristics, unique characteristics of an e-commerce business.
Absolutely. There are, e-commerce business can be good, but there are, very significant challenges.
Absolutely.
So now let's start with 24/7 availability. E-commerce is 24/7 availability, makes it very easy for both the parties.
Absolutely. So most brick and mortar store, unless it's a super center, Walmart type of store, they're open from X amount of time to X amount of time, 10 hours, 12 hours. When you have an e-commerce store, is available throughout the clock. You can place the order anytime. So the availability is definitely a plus thing when it comes to e-commerce side.
Global reach.
Global reach.
Exactly.
So anybody can reach. As you are taking the example, in a typical brick and mortar store, most of your customers are going to be local customers, and you know that you're collecting the local sales tax. So in New Jersey, we know it's 6.625%, but in New York, it could be 8.875%. But what if you have the store located in New Jersey, but somebody is placing the order from New York? Then how how does it work? So when it comes to the global reach, it has its pros and cons. It's not as easy as much as you expect the customers from everywhere. You have to see what you are selling. Do you really have a reach for that item? And how much is this item? Does it make sense for somebody to be buying this item online, or is it going to be far cheaper to just buy it locally? Does the shipping cost factor into this whole manufacturing cost, in the cost of goods sold? So there are a lot of caveats around it when it comes to the global reach.
Okay, then also the other benefit is personalization and customization.
Absolutely. So I'm sure our viewers will relate to it. Now in these days, the emails says Dear AJ.
Yes.
So there is a personalization around technology. So you don't have to remember the name. Somebody is placing the order based on their credit card information, based on their order form. You can clearly say, Dear this person, we appreciate you buying this. You bought the necklace. Now the next thing you see, you try to promote 2 earrings, if you are in the jewelry business, right next to what the necklace is. Or you try to provide the ancillary items, or you try to sell the insurance around it. You bought the item, thank you very much. Do you need the maintenance plan around it? So a lot of customization can be done immediately and in the future, because now it's in your database. So after 6 months, hey, you bought this thing from us, the shampoo, do you need another shampoo from us? Meaning you must have finished the shampoo by now. So there is a lot of customization that goes hand in hand when it comes to the e-commerce database.
All right, the other good parts are, there is a lower barrier entry. There is already a speed up process, once you order, once you give all the details, and you don't have to give a whole lot of details.
Absolutely.
You select it, once you select it, just the basic information and your credit card and debit card, whatever that information is. So that also helps speed up the process.
Absolutely, 100%. So the ease of doing business is there, and the entry to barrier is not there, meaning you don't really have to have a large store. You can have thousands of items on the website.
Yep.
Especially when you don't have a brick and mortar store. They are all sitting in Amazon warehouse or somewhere in warehouse. You can be shipping from India, and you just have to disclose to the customer that the shipping time is 2 to 3 weeks, or whatever time you think is going to take. But you don't really need to maintain a large store in order to have a large store. In order to have a large inventory, you don't really have to have a large store.
And the other part is, let's say that you want to buy, for example, a pair of shoes, right? And then once you say, okay, these are the pair of shoes that I like to buy. When you go to the store, you have limited choices. But on e-commerce, right? Next thing you know, 10, 20 different kinds of pairs of shoes will pop up on your screen, and you will say, it will give you a chance to choose that you like, or even something better.
It gets better. If you are not sure about the size, they will be happy to ship you 4 shoes.
Correct.
Only to know that you will only keep one, and they will give you the return label right there. Hey, these are the 4 shoes, try it.
Correct, exactly.
Take whatever you like.
Yep.
And then you can return the other 3.
Bilkul. Absolutely. So that helps. How does the legal consideration come in e-commerce? Does it really affect anything?
Well, it does and it does not. Say if you have a warehouse in California, you don't want to be shipping everything from East Coast. So depending on the business type, as the business grows, you want to have a couple of warehouses, East Coast, West Coast. So the complication becomes, now you have people working in multiple states. You have to run the payroll in multiple states. Now you have customers ordering your stuff. In this example, let's say shoes, ordering from multiple states. Then you have to be concerned about paying sales tax in all those states. You will have to have the business registered in multiple states. So there are a lot of legal compliances that you have to be worrying about. The good thing is, a lot of businesses, say for example Amazon, eBay, they will provide this whole black box type of solution. You put everything in Amazon warehouse or eBay or wherever you choose. There are several options like that. They will take care of all these compliance for you. They will charge you a fee for it, but they will be responsible for the sales tax, they will be responsible for the shipping, they will be responsible for the legal compliance around that. So in the beginning, especially while you are trying to start something, it wouldn't be a bad idea to start something with someone's help as opposed to trying to do it yourself.
All right, that's very useful information. This actually gives an opportunity for an entrepreneur just starting a business, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
This is a great idea. Now, again, they can be sitting in one room just like we're sitting, right? with the room full of products and everything. And when they are going through Amazon or any other e-commerce site, boom, as soon as the order comes in, they get the order and Amazon sends a note that you've got this order, you need to ship this much, blah blah blah. Amazon has it in stock and it's shipped. It makes it easy.
Absolutely.
So it's really important for this small business. But how e-commerce is important for major corporation, and what should they do to continue to be very active and very efficient on e-commerce business? We're going to touch upon that right after this messages. Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching the Business Talk with Ajay right here on ITV Gold. Once again, the show is brought to you by CPA Services, a full-fledged professional accounting firm located in the state of New Jersey. You'll see the information on the screen, and we'll be right back after this message. Stay with us. Welcome back to the second half of the Business Talk with Ajay on ITV Gold. This is the show that really gives you a lot of information about different businesses. In each episode during this season, we bring you all the information that you need to know about several businesses, and that's where Ajay's expertise comes in. So Ajay is with us right now, and today's topic is e-commerce. How e-commerce has become a vital part of your business, whether you are a small business owner or an entrepreneur or even a major corporation, right? So we talked about that in the first half. Now let's see how e-commerce plays a role in a business to business, B2B. How does that happen, Ajay?
Absolutely. So there are it's a big role. So initially, when we thought about e-commerce, we were thinking about the basement businesses, garage businesses.
Yes.
And then it became business as normal, even for the retail store. Even the stores that have their brick and mortar store, they have their website. They have a retail store out there for customers who cannot drive, who cannot reach there. So consider a restaurant where you have to-go section as opposed to just sitting in section. So a lot of stores, brick and mortar, will have their own e-commerce system. But when it comes to business, especially in these days, when you have the, let's say, dollar store, a lot of these items are coming from China. So Dollar General or dollar stores are buying these items internationally only because of B2B type of system, only because of e-commerce. These things were unheard of or were not as commonly done. People had to physically travel over there to that country to see what they are selling and then place the order and then hope the order will show up in 3 months. Now a lot of these things can be done electronically. A lot of these warehousing is done electronically. I have a B2B business where I get the shipment from this business from India. It shows up in someone else's warehouse who is providing the distribution services for me. So, I mean, it has become a lot easier over the time to have the e-commerce business when it comes to the
interesting. Business to business, that is a very interesting, part of this e-commerce business that I really like. Now, in B2B also, efficiency of purchasing process,
absolutely,
that also plays in a role, right?
Absolutely. So the purchasing, which used to be physically going to the a different country and then looking at the item that used to take a month process to purchase, to buy something, now that can be done in a matter of days, in a matter of hours actually. They ship the items to you, you look at the quality, and after trying it one time, now you have a supplier relationship, vendor relationship, where you get the supply, you try the item, they are sending the supply automatically every 60 days, every 90 days. And then you have created a B2B e-commerce website where somebody else is sending the item, somebody else is selling the item. You are just sitting in between, in the middle, and making money or getting some commission out of it.
Exactly. And of course, personalization and customization also comes into play, which we already discussed in the first half. So that helps,
A lot of personalization. It's not one size fit everybody anymore. You decide what color you want. You decide what size you want. You decide what shade you want. And somebody can just put it together for you.
Okay.
And can be shipped right from the manufacturer.
All right. So these are, some of the important points. But now let's look in the tax scenario, because, you're really expert into it. So I really like you to give information on the sales tax situation, tax compliance situation, and how does that affect on a company's tax return when they file a tax return?
No, absolutely, 100%. So there are three main type of taxes that you need to be concerned about when it comes to the e-commerce system. It could be sales tax, could be payroll tax, or the income tax.
Correct.
And the trick here is you're not limited to one state. Federal tax in most cases wouldn't be that much of an issue. So in the US system, as you know, we have a central government tax, we call it federal tax, and then each state has their own taxing system. There are 50 states in the country. So when you are talking about a brick and mortar store, a local service business, you are mainly talking about the federal taxes and that state related taxes. But when it comes to the e-commerce business, the state taxes varies from state to state when it comes to the sales tax, payroll tax, or the income tax. And the concept is very similar. In the sales tax, in some cases you will find we use the source based sales tax. What it means is the sales tax applies from where you are selling it from, as opposed to where you are selling to, as opposed to the destination state. So you have to know exactly which state you are selling, which state you are selling from. It gets more complicated. In some of the states, the sales tax varies from location to location, meaning in New York City has a different sales tax than Albany. There are a lot of other states where Ohio, depending on the location, your sales tax can vary. Even in New Jersey, the sales tax in Newark or the UEZ area is half of the sales tax that you have in the rest of the state. Yeah. So you have to be careful. It depends on address, where you are selling to where you are selling. And then you calculate the sales tax, and then you try to collect the appropriate sales tax and pay to the right government authority. When it comes to the payroll, you need to be concerned about the nexus. Where are these employees working? If somebody gets fired, which state this employee is going to get the workers' comp, workers' insurance, unemployment insurance from? And that state has to be paid the workers' comp. So you have to have the payroll registration in many cases in multiple states to make sure all the employees are paid properly, all the employees have their proper workers' comp insurance or SUI, SDI type of insurance. When it comes to the income tax filing, take an example. Let's say if you made $100. On federal level, it's easy. This is what the tax is, this is what your income is. But when it comes to the state, we'll ask you how much of this $100 was made from New York versus New Jersey versus California. Then you have to file taxes in all those states where you have nexus, where you have the payroll, where you have the sales tax, where you have the warehouse, where you have physical office. And then you pay taxes in that state based on the pro rata portion of that income in that state. Not just pay everything in New Jersey or everything in the home state. So just be careful in what you're walking in, especially as the business grows, the compliance will be extremely important.
Interesting. That's where, very experienced and knowledgeable CPAs comes in effect. When you have sales tax issue, payroll tax issue, and income tax issue in e-commerce related business, and the several states are involved, it gets complicated. And that's where Science CPA services are really, really knowledgeable, experienced, and they can assist you in this matter. If you are just an entrepreneur or small business owner, and doing this or want to do this, to get more information, contact Science CPA Services, 908-380-6876. Ajay, I have a couple of questions before we wrap it up. As you gave us full details on an e-commerce business and for major corporation and an entrepreneur, how can this platform help, let's say, consultants or educators who educate children on varieties of education matters?
In many ways, especially for an educator, for a consultant, now you are not limited to your time. You're not selling your time. See, all the educators, all the consultants of the world are not selling the education. What they're selling? They're selling their time. But if you can do it through e-commerce, you can create these lectures, you can create this knowledge base. People can subscribe to it. People can download it and pay based on what they are using. So now, as an educator, as a consultant, you are not limited to selling your time. You don't have to sell 1 hour at a time. You create that lecture, put it on the website. Anybody who wants to see it can pay you $1. And now you are selling the knowledge as opposed to the time. It's extremely helpful when it comes to the e-commerce website.
Okay. Then, with all these tools and everything sounding so good with e-commerce, right? Let's talk about the data security and the consumer privacy. These are the really important things, because once you are in e-commerce and once you are buying and selling and whatever you're doing, right, a lot of your information are stored in there.
Absolutely.
So what is your take on this data security?
I think it's extremely important. We, as a CPA, deal with a lot of confidential information on a day-to-day basis. But like any other business, when you are getting into the business, you have this obligation, you have this responsibility to protect the customer database, to protect the personal information for all these customers. So do not take it lightly. If somebody is saying, I'll pay you X amount of money, if you can share the customer database, that's not how you're supposed to be doing. This is not how it's supposed to be going. You have their name, address, in many cases their credit card information, a lot of personally identifiable information. So make sure you're using the state-of-the-art security system, right firewall, right encryption, and having somebody else. You have to have a WISP, some sort of information security policy. If you have an e-commerce business, having WISP is a mandatory thing, where you have a quarterly review, a periodic review to see, is my policy, is my process is still compliant, it still makes sense based on what we see in the market.
All right, good. Earlier you mentioned, when we were discussing, you mentioned that dollar stores, general stores here, they buy a lot of stuff from China, right? So my question to you is that e-commerce with international expansion, because there are very popular Chinese websites, right, that they're operated from China, they're based in China, but they are here in the US, and you can buy the items from them and they will ship it to you and whatnot. So my question to you is about international expansion when it comes to e-commerce business and selling it at cross-border, whether it's China, Canada, Asia, anywhere, Australia. What's your opinion on that matter?
I think it's extremely important, especially if you are in a B2B type of business. You cannot afford not to be having an international exposure. If you are in a B2C type of business, having international exposure may not be as necessary or as important, just because of the shipping costs or the shipping hassles that we have internationally. But if you're in a B2B business, if you make less one item pants, you want to be able to sell these pants all around the world. Anybody who's willing to pay for it, you are willing to sell. Especially when you have bulk item. B2B means the sales are happening in bulk, not one item at a time. In those cases, it's extremely important to have international presence. In many cases, depending on how the business is doing, you may end up creating a local office in that states. We see a lot of people from India who creates a company in US. They have never been in US. They don't have a social security number. We can still help them create a business in US, where under this business they try to get a local warehouse where they send a large shipment from India to US, so the US consumers can be supported. So you cannot be sending, in a B2C type of situation, you cannot be sending one item at a time to each customer. It's too expensive. But if you see the demand is there, you send 100 items together in your local warehouse, and your local warehouse is supplying the items. So it's getting very important to have the international exposure when it comes to e-commerce business.
Very good. Having said that, in this episode, we covered e-commerce business, inside and outside of e-commerce business. What are the pros and cons, and what you should do, what you should not do. When it comes to e-commerce, let's just bring it to this moment that India is really progressing very well when it comes to e-commerce business. They are doing very well, phenomenally well, not only in India but outside India also. So that is a good point to note. And of course, America, China, they are very well ahead in e-commerce business. The reason I mention India, because we are celebrating India's 78th Independence Day. This week is, of course, India's Independence Day celebration. And wherever you live, I'm sure that around you there must be flag hoisting ceremony or parade taking place this weekend, Saturdays and Sundays, to celebrate India's 78th Independence Day. So on behalf of Ajay and everyone else here at ITV Gold, we wish you a very happy 78th India's Independence Day. And may the country continue to prosper, and may the citizens of country India live in a peace and harmony and love. With that note, we come to the end of this week's episode of the Business Talk with AJ. AJ, thank you so very much
Absolutely.
for
Thank
your
you, and
time,
happy
for your
Independence
presence.
Day.
Yes, happy Independence Day to you as well. Until we meet again, same place, same time, you take care of yourself, and you all have a happy and smiley days ahead. So long.
Thank you.